ever faced a challenge that seemed hopeless, yet you think that you have the power to change your life for the better no matter the obstacles you face? Well, if so, then you're in the right place. I'm your host, Ileka Falette, and welcome to the Power Transformation Podcast, where we explore the incredible true stories of people who have overcome adversity and created meaningful lives. So, prepare to be inspired, equipped, and empowered, for the time is now to create your power transformation. Hey, y'all! Welcome to another episode of the Power Transformation Podcast. I am so thrilled that you decided to listen to this podcast today. And for all of you who have been with me since the beginning, I thank you for still being a part of this power transformation community. And for any of you who came later on, or this is your first time listening, I welcome you. I encourage you to please subscribe, follow, share, leave a 5-star rating, and become a part of this community. It's absolutely free just to listen to these episodes, and there are so many more things coming down the road. I always begin with an affirmation, and our guest today, this affirmation definitely suits her. But I start with this affirmation. You say it aloud after I say it. Here it is. I avoid comparing myself to others because I value who I am. I am so excited to have this expert on the Power Transformation Podcast. It is none other than Ileka Falette, and she is a business strategist for wellness professionals, but she's a lot more than that. She likes to keep her titles under wrap, but this woman has so much experience in a lot of different areas. And there's a personal connection that I have with her too, that I will talk about later on. But I just want to welcome you to the Power Transformation Podcast. Ileka, welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here and then be having this conversation with you. This is so much fun.
It really is. And y'all, she knows me by my nickname, Lily. That's my nickname. So it's okay, girl. If you end up calling me that, she does not call me Alethea, but it's okay if during it you happen to say Lily. I'm not going to be upset, and I will explain that more, you all. But we want to jump into this interview, and I always like to start with something lighthearted because what you have to share, you have quite a powerful story, and I want you to be able to share that as well as how you continue to move forward, and just your journey as a whole is so loaded. But prior to that, let's kind of start off on a more lighthearted note. Random question, nothing to make you uncomfortable. But if you can think about all of the teachers that you had throughout your life, teachers, professors, anybody who's had some type of a teaching role in your life, which teacher stands out to you the most as your favorite? And what is your reasoning for them being your favorite teacher?
Oh, so it's so funny because there's actually two teachers that immediately popped in my head.
Okay, go ahead.
The first one is my aunt. She was our first teacher. So what she actually was a teacher, right? But what she would do is she was an elementary school teacher when I was born, and she would bring what she was doing in her classrooms home and teach it to us.
Wow.
So we were learning, and then we were teaching each other, and we were always learning and growing. And also she always fought for us. That's what was so important. So when I was 5 years old, I went from going to a predominantly Black school, right? That was in like a really, really urban area, moved to the suburbs for first grade to go to a school where there were 4 Black kids in the whole school, me, my sister, and the 2 kids across the street.
Whoa.
So that was it, right? And so I got there, and there was a lot of assumptions that I wasn't smart enough, that I wasn't able to do things. And, because of where the school that I'd come from. And I'll never forget, My aunt went to the school because they were trying to put me back in kindergarten, even though I
Mm.
was 6 years old and ready for first grade. My aunt went to the school and said, "What makes you want to put her in kindergarten?" And they were like, "Well, did you text her?" No, but okay, well, let's test her right now. So
Yeah.
she had them like test me by pointing out letters, pointing out numbers, adding, subtracting, all the things that a second grader would be able to do. And I'm moving in the first grade. And then she taught them a lesson and said, do not assume that a child can't do something because of where they came from. Look at that person individually, and you could see the light and you could see where they could actually go. And
Mm.
so that was game changing for me as a 6 year old. I
Mm.
remember the moment, which is so wild. So that was incredible. And then my second teacher was Mr. Phillips. He's still here, and he and I we still talk like on each other's birthdays.
Oh, wonderful. I like
On
hearing
Facebook.
that.
Yeah, he was my teacher in 11th grade, and I was always kind of a competitive kid. And so when I was in like eighth grade or something, I wanted to be in a higher math class. I wanted to be in a
Mhm.
grade ahead math. And they wouldn't put me in it because, I was, again, it was four Black kids. It was a pretty, there were some racial issues there. But then we got to 11th grade and I told him, I said, Mr. Phillips, I want to take two math classes. I want to take this one and I want to take the grade ahead math class.
Mm.
And he was like, I believe you can do it. And so he's like, and I teach these two math classes back to back. So we talked to the counselor and he let me take both math classes. And he allowed me to also have some flexibility with it. Well, I'll be teaching similar topics today in both classes.
Mhm.
So why don't you go and head to lunch during the second class so you can get some free time and that time back. So just constant, like he just supported me and allowed me to believe that I could do it. And probably part of why I became an engineer.
Wow. And
So yeah, two
from
incredible teachers.
both aspects of it, from your aunt as well as Mr. Phillips, you had
Mhm.
someone who not only believed in you, but advocated for you
Yes.
and knew in your capability and saw so much in you. And that is so important to have. And I'm
Mhm.
so glad you had those two people, and I'm sure others, but those particularly who poured into you. How wonderful is that? That's a great way to start because it also ties in with how you help people and you advocate for people. And we'll get into that. But this next question is a loaded one, but it's a standard question that I ask all of my guests. But you take it any way that you want to go. Who is Ileka Falette?
Oh, when I think of it, when someone asks me who is Ileka Falette, the first thing that comes for me um, is someone that loves. So
Mm.
and my kids come in. So I think I'm a mom. I have four children and they are my heart, right? And then of course my husband, who is he is just an angel placed on earth by God,
Oh.
like just so incredible. And so I love my family so much. I was literally just on the phone prior to starting with one of my aunts and just letting her know that we get to love each other as a family, right? We
Mm.
get to, whether no matter what's happening, we get to love each other. So when I think of me, love is a big part of it. And
Mm.
also, I want other people to win. That's a big piece in me. Like, there's something in me that wants people to win. I'm going to always be rooting for you, always be cheering you on, always be trying to connect you to the right people that's going to help you, get to whatever
Mm.
goal. Like, that's a big part of me. And then also just, I'm really smart. I'm a
That's
smart
right,
person.
girl. You
Yeah.
better say it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And like I am, and I own that. Like, and I don't even necessarily just mean like book smarts or street smarts. Like, there's different types of smart, but I am someone that I observe, I see
Mhm.
what's happening, and I lean into what's the best way to allow us to move forward.
I see exactly what you are saying by that. And before we go even deeper into the talk, I want to bring up this question for you, or it's more of a statement. You said earlier that you are an engineer. I knew that, but I want you to tell the audience up front where you earned your engineering degree from, specifically during undergrad.
Yes. Well, of course, I will tell that my bachelor's of science in industrial engineering and my master's of science in industrial and systems engineering came from the prestigious North Carolina Agricultural and Technical State University, Aggie Pride. That's where I went to school.
Yes, indeed. And I say that because I have relatives. I have an aunt and an uncle specifically. Then I have lots of friends, more than I've counted. Lots of friends who are proud A&T graduates. And I wanted to put that up front because that is something I want people to know, that I am interviewing someone who is a proud graduate from that esteemed, distinguished school, HBCU. And so, yes, I wanted to bring up that. But you are an engineer by trade and training. However, girl, your life has taken so many twists and turns to even be to the point where you are now as this business strategist for wellness professionals. And I am a wellness pro and everything like that. But y'all, I have something funny to say. Is she already knows this, but when I asked her to be on the podcast, I have so many different pages of people who follow me, or I follow them, or just people I know. And I'm not the kind of a person who goes on people's pages scoping them out. So when I invited her, I did so because of her transformative story. I didn't even have a clue to the fact she had morphed and evolved and transitioned into something even more than where she started. So we are going to talk about that. But I want to go back to the beginning to lead up to how you even got into this role. How do you go from engineering to wellness? Take us to the early beginnings of what prompted your wellness journey.
Yes, definitely. So we can go back to about 8 years ago. 8 years ago, I had been in corporate America for close to 20 years as a business strategist and process improvement program manager, project certified project manager, certified Lean Six Sigma, all of these different things, right? Which all lean into industrial engineering. So that foundation is the foundation for what I was doing. And I, been working at these companies and I actually really enjoyed what I did. I didn't always enjoy the bureaucracy of the companies, but that's what I was doing. But I had found myself well over 300 pounds. As a mom of four, who's, thriving in their career and, doing, working in their career a lot. And then also being a mom, I just wasn't taking care of myself. And I'd always had weight issues since I was 8 years old. So I started my first diet at 8, right? And had been on diets for 30 years. So it wasn't anything new for me. And in my 37th year, I remember I said, enough is enough.
Wow.
I've got to make a change. This is not okay. And something's got to give. Something has to give, because it got to the point where I couldn't like run after my kids. I couldn't go outside and play with them. My knees hurt too bad. I had so much inflammation in my knees and arthritis in my knees. My back was bothering my feet. I had plantar fasciitis in both feet, like all of these different things. And it just wasn't okay. And so I knew something had to give. And so I started exercising again. And I had been a basketball player in college and all through high school, middle school, my whole life, right? But I'd been an overweight basketball player. So when I stopped playing basketball, I gained even more weight because now I wasn't getting the activity in. And I knew I had to do more than just like walking, because the body has muscle memory. When I tried to walk like other people did, like people would be like, oh, just go out and start walking, you'll lose weight. I was walking, I could walk 5 miles, nothing was happening. So I was like, I think I have to do something heavier. So I started like doing like workout tapes and things like that. And then I met some friends in my neighborhood and we started exercising together. So we began going to the gym together and stuff like that. And then after a while, it was just me going. They weren't going as much. I'd be like, "Hey, we on our way," and
Oh,
they'd be like, "Ooh, I got to cancel. I can't come today." Whatever. So I was like, at this point, I've got to keep going. Like I had to find my true motivation and why. And to be honest, it was my daughter. Um, I had three sons and then a baby girl. You know, she's 9 now, but at the time she was a baby, right? And I knew that if I continued down this path, then so would she.
hmm.
And I didn't
Wow.
want her to experience those things. So I began exercising, got consistent with it, and then I began shifting my eating. I realized that my body did not like carbs, um, especially processed foods, right? But
Mhm.
my body didn't like sugar, and it didn't like those white carbs, right? Bread and gluten and things like that. So one of my friends was talking about keto. I didn't really understand what it was
Mhm.
completely, but I was like, I'll try it. You know, I at that point I was like, I'll try anything. I tried pretty much everything already, so why not this? You know,
Yeah,
so
exactly.
right. So
Mhm.
so for me it was um I started eating keto, but this is before, keep in mind, this is before keto was a thing.
Exactly, because it got real popular at one point.
Right. Exactly, right?
It
So
did. Mhm.
this is when you couldn't go to the store and see something that said keto on it.
Mhm.
So all we knew was we ate um meat from animals and we ate vegetables. And that was it, right? We weren't throwing a bunch of extra butter and things. I would put a little bit of butter in my coffee. That tastes amazing. I know people can't believe it, but it really does. So I
Uh-huh.
was doing that. I was, I'd have ensuring I was getting enough fat, but I wasn't being excessive with my fat. I wasn't out here eating like, trying to find fat to eat, right? But I was really sticking to let me eat meat from animals and vegetables. And so doing that, I saw the weight start falling off.
Mm.
And then because I was exercising, I realized I wasn't and I was focusing on protein. I realized that I didn't have as much like loose skin as a lot of people I would see who was also losing weight on keto. And so that's when I saw like what I was doing that was different. Um, and then while doing that, I ended up losing 120 pounds. Uh,
Wow, 120 pounds. Now,
120.
let me pause you here and I'm gonna have you pick up from there. I want to kind of backtrack just a little bit.
Yeah.
During the time when you reached your peak and you knew something had to give, and then you looked around, you looked at your daughter, you saw that this lifestyle just was not sustainable. Tell me about the emotional journey that you experienced from being this heavier person, this practically morbidly obese person, to now losing 120 pounds. How do you emotionally adjust to that?
Yeah. So um, I remember knowing for a fact when I was overweight that there were opportunities that I'd missed out on because of my weight, whether it
Wow.
been at work, there were people getting promotions over me, even though it was like a clear consensus that
Mhm.
I was better at my job than they were. So these things were happening. People were making more money than me, all of these things. And so that was already an issue. That was already something that was really bothering me, right? And then I had created a belief that I had to stay at this one company, that I couldn't leave the company because nobody was going to hire someone of my size. Like these are the
Whoa.
things that were in my brain. These are the
Mhm.
stories I was telling myself and believing. Um, and then I remember there was a day when I took all the kids to the doctors. So 4 kids, mind you, and they're all under the age of 8, right? And so we're going into the doctor's office and they would always give us the big room, right? Because, it's four
Mhm.
of them. So we walk in, three of the three boys would sit over here. And then I had the baby in the stroller. And um, the doctor came in and she wanted to work with my daughter first. So she does the examination on her. I think she was about 18 months old. she does the examination, and then afterwards she pulls out the chart and she says, she's tracking a little high on the weight scale,
Mm.
and we need to move her to from whole milk to skim milk, and
Oh,
make sure
wow.
she's not eating this and not eating that. And I said, let me stop you right there. I said,
Mhm.
first of all, because see what the doctor did was, in my mind, right? The doctor looked at me and said, oh, you guys are eating crap food because you're overweight and now your kids are going to be overweight.
Mhm.
But what the doctor didn't know is that we ate 99% organic at the time. um, my kids did not even drink milk. We drank almond milk, and they ate no candy or anything like that.
Wow.
So she was already prejudging and pre-assuming. And also, she wasn't gauging the fact that my daughter was a little taller. I mean,
Mhm.
I'm almost 6 feet tall. You know that. So, you know, of course the audience doesn't know that, but
Yeah.
right. So
Yeah.
I'm nearly 6 feet tall. So my daughter is going to be a little taller. And she was looking at the chart, but then she was also in her mind had a number that she should be at. And she wasn't even, it's not like she was at the 100th percentile. She was at like 78. At 78th percentile, wait, why are we talking about that she's tracking out? That's not, she's still in, that's still relatively normal. So I didn't like the conversation.
Mhm.
But then I also had a flashback to when I was a kid, when I was 8 years old in the doctor's office. And, my mom had me and my two sisters in there, and the doctor says that I'm overweight and I need to see a nutritionist and all this other stuff. And my sisters were laughing because, we're
Mm.
kids, right? The doctor
Mhm.
said you're fat. And I thought, I don't want my daughter to go through that.
Wow.
And I knew that I had to change in order for them to see me different, and in order for them to even, honestly, even review the charts and stuff without being so subjective.
Mhm.
Like,
Wow.
yeah, to objectively review the charts, they had to look and see that they couldn't look at me and say, well, she's overweight, so her kids are she's probably feeding them candy all the time. So I realized that if I, really looked at myself and what I was doing, because even though we were eating organic, we were still eating tons of, like, I was eating bread and I was eating things that my body didn't like. So it didn't matter. And I was probably eating a little more than I should have. So I knew that something had to change because I could not allow my daughter to experience what I had gone through. I didn't want my daughter to be on diets from the time she was 2 years
Mhm.
old, and
Yeah.
always, having to try go to, Weight Watchers and Jenny Craig and this and that and the third, which I had tried all of those things. And I didn't want that for her. So I knew that now I had to make a change. I couldn't let her go through the same thing that I went through.
And one thing that you said that's really key that I hope that the listeners pick up on is the fact that you shared about how you had to learn what worked best for your body. And
Mhm.
sometimes I've seen in this industry or just over the years that people
Mhm.
sometimes think it's a one size fits all approach to any type of eating that, oh, if you eat this way, then everything's going to be okay. Or if you do that or this, but you've got to find what works best for your body and your lifestyle. And
Yes.
while a lot of these different types of lifestyles have benefits, keto might work for one person, just like
Mhm.
being vegan might work for someone else. And then others, Mediterranean diet lifestyle may be best. The whole
Right.
point is really learning your body and finding what suits you. Now, one question that I do have for you, and I'll preface this with anyone listening to say, I am not going to say I am anti this form of losing weight because I know people within my own family, friends who have
Mhm.
had this way. But were you ever approached? And if so, tell me about this or how. Had a doctor ever approached you about bariatric surgery? Was it ever a consideration? And what was your personal rationale for not wanting to go that route, especially when you said you tried Jenny Craig, Weight Watchers, and so many other programs?
Yeah. So Yeah. I had one doctor ask me one time, and I shut him down so quickly that it was never asked again.
Mm,
Because here's the thing, for me, I knew I knew at that time I was never going to do weight loss surgery. And this is a for me thing, and here's the reason. And I don't knock anyone who's done it,
mm-hmm.
but I had 4 C-sections. I've had um
Oh.
I've had a hemangioma removed from my colon and 4 inches of my colon removed at one point in my life. I've had hernia repair. I've had, I mean, tonsil, like my tonsils are taken out. That's not a
Mm-hmm.
big, but I've had so many different surgeries for different reasons that I didn't want to be cut again. And
Mm,
also, I knew from having those other surgeries that every time I had something, there was always some sort of side effect with the surgery. And so then when I connected, like I had family and folks that I know who'd had it before, and most of them had some sort of side effect. They couldn't eat certain things, or their bodies would get sick. They weren't able to the nutrients in the food wasn't being absorbed all the way, like all of these different things. And I thought, I don't want to create something else that is affecting the way that I live.
mm-hmm.
So I
Mm-hmm.
knew that it wasn't something I ever wanted to do. And just like you said, different things are for different people, right? And so what I always tell people is, especially if you're working with a health coach or working on, figuring out what is right for you, get some tests done.
Yes.
Um, Everything from
Yes.
sensitivity tests to cortisone level tests, like understanding what your body is doing. Because when you get the test done, then you can see what works for your body. Like I know my body is sensitive to gluten, and so that I need to, and the sensitivity test versus the allergy test.
Yes.
Right. Because you'll go to the doctor and they'll give you an allergy test. Well, you're not allergic to gluten. You're not allergic to dairy. So then you're thinking, oh, I can eat gluten and dairy. But every time you eat it, your stomach bloats. That
Mm-hmm.
allergy test isn't testing for that. You know, there's actual tests out there that test for what we can do and what we should be doing and the best ways to eat for our bodies. But though that's what, and if you're looking to connect with someone that's going to be able to at least refer you to certain tests, so then you can create the way of eating, the way of nourishing your body based on what your body actually needs versus
Mm-hmm.
he lost weight on keto, so I can lose weight on keto.
That's
That don't mean
right.
you can lose weight on keto. That
Yeah.
right. Just because she did it, don't mean you did it. You could do it.
And I so appreciate you saying that because I did a post on social media a couple of years ago about that.
Mhm,
As you know, and my audience knows, is that I
mhm.
have Western medicine doctors as well as naturopathic. And my
Yes.
naturopathic doctor, who also has Western medicine training, she's
Hmm.
really big on the food sensitivity test, as how
Hmm.
you have said, because sometimes people think that if you have a particular allergy, that all allergens or sensitivities manifest in the same way. And if so, one key fact is that we really shouldn't feel sluggish and tired and exhausted after we eat. And when
Right.
we do, then that means there's something you're eating that's causing your body to have some type of a reaction that is adverse, or even something as simple as belching. Allergens and sensitivities don't necessarily have to show up in
Mhm.
rashes or hives. And that's
Right.
why people like you who's a wellness pro in this field, just like I am, must educate the masses on this, because people are living day by day thinking they're okay and could really have something to eat that's detrimental. Now, in terms of your mental state during this time, how, Ileka, did you keep your tenacity, perseverance, endurance? How did you keep yourself talking positively and speaking life as you were on this journey towards removing the 120 pounds, but also in that maintenance phase? What were you telling yourself that kept you moving forward?
It's funny because, and I often share this, especially on my YouTube channel. I share it a lot, where it's like when losing the weight is actually, and it sounds crazy, but losing the weight is
That's the
actually
easy.
easier than
Uh-huh.
maintaining it. Because yeah, because what happens is when you're losing the weight, you have such a strong why. You have this target you're working to get to, and maybe it's because you want to be healthier, you want to be an example for your kids, you want to be there for your kids, you want to get off of medications, even if it's for you want to be cute for your wedding or somebody else's wedding,
Hmm.
right? Or a vacation, whatever it is, you have this strong why. And so you are pushing toward it and you're going for it, right? It's going to work this time and you don't care what happens because this why has gotten so strong. And I think it's so important to have that strong why and push toward it. But
Hmm.
here's the thing, when you hit your goal or get close to your goal, it doesn't matter what your why is, it's not going to be strong enough to get you to stay there. It doesn't matter if your why is life and death. If you gain 5 pounds, you will die. You'll still be like, I'm gonna try, I'm gonna see how this cold stone work. Like you're still gonna be trying to have this pizza, right? Like because the trauma or whatever it is that's connected to the weight, that is still in control. So until you're able to really lean into what is it that's causing this weight to be here, you're going to stay there. You're going to keep
Hmm.
gaining it back. That's why you see so many people lose a bunch of weight and then you don't see them for a while. And then they come back like, hey, and act like nothing happened. They gained back 50 pounds, right?
Yes, yes.
Because there's still something that's holding on to it. And so for me, what I did was I had my strong why. I want to be there for my kids. I want to be stronger for them. I want to set a great example for them because I never had any health issues, no real ones. Like I had like my knees were hurting and stuff like that, but I didn't have like high blood pressure or anything like that, right? So my why was always I want to be able to move better and spend more and hang out with my kids and play with my kids and be vibrant while they were
Hmm.
still young. But
Hmm.
when I lost the weight, I saw myself starting to, 1 pound, 2 pound here and there, 5 pounds, 10 pounds, right? And gaining it. And I realized, what is going on? Like, why couldn't I stay as, as dedicated and disciplined after I lost the weight? What's happening? And that's when I realized it's because the weight was connected to something for me.
Mm.
So I
Wow.
had to look and see what it was connected to. And for me, it was about being seen.
Wow.
So as a child, that first diet when I was 8 years old, well, I had to write down everything I ate and put it on this thing. And then I had certain foods at the house that were only for me because I was on this diet, right? And
Hmm.
these things I had to do. And my parents had 4 kids, there were 4 of us. So my mom paid more attention to me during this time. I was that middle child who was kind of like, nobody really noticed you, right? So I
Yeah.
always wanted to be noticed. And so when I was on that diet, she paid attention. So then we were off the diet, we were regular, but here again, oh, we're going to try this other diet. So now we're trying the cabbage soup diet, right? And we're doing it
Uh-huh.
together. Yep, me and my mom doing it together. Or we're working out to some to oh, what was it? But burn. Oh, I forgot what it's called, but it was something burn that fat or burn. It was some sort of tapes that were
Talking
out.
about like
And
walking
buns
tapes.
of steel. Buns of
Oh,
steel.
buns of steel. Yes. Okay.
Buns of steel. So
Uh-huh.
we were doing buns of steel together. And so we're doing these different things. And every time I was on some sort of diet, we were on it together and we would be losing the weight together.
Hmm.
And I was being seen, I was being noticed. So the craziest part is that when I lost the weight, I had this YouTube channel and I was out here sharing and people weren't watching, right?
Mm.
And so then I think something in me said, well, if you gain some weight again, then you'll be seen. And it wasn't like I
Mm.
said that at the forefront, like, yeah, this is exactly what you should do, but it's something that I like my body gained some weight back. At about a year and a half later, I think it was. I'd had the YouTube channel for a while, but it was like mediocre level, maybe like 8,000 people, right?
Hmm.
8,000 followers or something like that. I gained, what did I gain? Like, I think I gained like 30 pounds back. It was the end of 2018. It
Okay.
might have been 40 or 50 pounds. I don't remember. And then I showed how I lost 30 pounds in 30 days. and here came a ton of followers in, right?
Got
And
you.
so my brain was given the story and it was cemented in my head. Well, when you gain weight, you were seen. It was like I was proving myself right again, and I was living in that story.
Hmm.
So I didn't actually release that story until 2019, is when I had to finally say, this is not why you're seen. You are who you are, and you got to let go of that story, step out of that story of when you gain weight, you're seen. And
Hmm.
so when I did that, it allowed me to sustain my results longer
That's
term.
amazing. That is absolutely amazing. And like I talked with you offline, I've pretty much maintained my weight.
Mhm.
But I've gotten what I consider fluffy, and so I need to tone up some more. I've gotten a little fluffy, but
Mhm.
I have to tone up. But I think everything you say is absolutely key. Is the mind plays such an important role in our wellness journeys as a whole. And once we make up our minds to do what we have to do, I think for me, it's more of when I'm in so many transitions and with my schedule changing now as a full-time entrepreneur. And I don't have to tell
Mhm.
you, it's a huge adjustment from just dabbling in it or part-time into going full out and just changing and moving and everything else. So I know, of course, what I need to do, and I've been making those small incremental changes. But,
Mhm.
you know, one key question for you that I want to segue into is how do you go, Ileka, from living this lifestyle yourself to saying, I want to help people? So let's first start with how you transition into being this wellness coach. How did that happen? And I know that time is getting by us, but I don't want to rush it. I want you to really talk about what sparked you to say, I want to help others on their journeys.
Yeah, where that came from was really uh I had I I'd lost my job actually. They had massive.
Mm,
I'd left the big company, gone to a smaller company, and after being there for about a year and a half, they laid off half the company. They never had layoffs before, but they just weren't winning business. It was a consulting firm. They weren't winning business and they laid off half the company. And I was the last one let go. So I remember I'd already lost all the weight and I'd been talking for a long time about like doing a podcast or
mm,
something, right? And my husband, we were actually on our 10th, it was the day that my last day of work was our 10th anniversary.
okay.
And so I went and we went to Hawaii. And while we were in Hawaii, I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And he turned to me and he said, why don't you just do that podcast thing you've been talking about? And I was like, well, I don't
Wow.
know how to do a podcast, but maybe like a YouTube channel, maybe. And he's like, yeah, do it. Why not? So that's what I did. I came back and I started a YouTube channel that September. And, as I was doing the YouTube channel, and I was just sharing like what I was doing, sharing meals, what I eat in a day, sharing family stuff, how we're being healthy for the kids, where I'm grocery shopping, what types of foods I'm getting, that sort of thing. And people began watching, and I was sharing my journey. And then and I'd help my mom lose some weight and, some aunts, a couple of my aunts and cousins and things like that. And then I ended up getting someone reached out to me on, I think it was Instagram and said, hey, would you coach me? And
Wow.
I was like, I don't even know what that is. Like, like I've done leadership coaching and executive
Uh-huh.
coaching. But what do you mean? Weight
Wait a
loss coach?
minute.
What does that mean?
Wait a minute though. That's so funny the way that you said it because it's so amazing how blessings will come our way. And you just say, I don't even know what that is. That is the
Right. I
realest
never even
answer.
heard of
I
it.
love hearing that. Y'all, you can do anything. You never know the way your life will turn out. Go ahead.
I'm telling
That's
you.
funny.
I was like, what? I didn't even know what it is. And she's telling me, she's like, well, you just show me how to do it, show me how to eat like this,
Wow.
um, and maybe put some together some exercises. And so I was
She
at the
building
gym.
your whole program for you.
Right. I was at the gym and a friend of mine, or someone I met there, she was like, yeah, I'm a keto coach. And I was like, oh. And she's like, yeah, I just, put together some meal
Wow.
plans and tell them what to eat. And I was like, oh, I could do that. But I was like, mine is going to include workouts though, because my people are people who want to work out. They're going to need to work out as a part of it. Like eating isn't going to be
Mm.
enough for people who come to me. I already know it. And I was already like showing my workouts and stuff online. So that's what I started. I started putting together meal plans for folks, and then adding workouts to it, and when to work out and what workouts to do, and
Mhm.
then setting up like calls for accountability, because I was like I've had these little workout plans and stuff and not done them. So how do we ensure that you do them, right? So they had to check off and say they did it. And then it just, the first person I helped, my first client lost over 100 pounds
Wow,
in a
that's
year.
wonderful.
Yeah.
Oh,
So I was like, oh, I can do this, you know?
that's right. That's
Yeah.
right.
And it continued to happen. But what I realized while I was doing it was I was getting overwhelmed, um,
Mm.
because I didn't know what I was doing. I knew how to help someone lose weight, but I didn't know how to run that business. And because I knew how to run, how to do things at IBM, and I knew how to work at a small firm and what had to happen, but in my brain wasn't connecting it to my own business, and I'd not run an online business before, so I didn't know
Mhm.
what that meant. I didn't know much about marketing or anything. Not realizing that, hello, building a YouTube channel of 35,000 followers, that's marketing. I had to have marketed to do that, but I
Mhm.
didn't get that, right? So I hired a coach, and he showed me how to bring on more clients, how to scale. Um, but the overwhelm was still there.
What
It was like, mhm.
was he a wellness coach or a business coach?
He coached wellness coaches for,
Ah,
not even wellness, he coached fitness coaches.
okay, I see.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So, because I got I was a certified personal trainer by then, and he showed us, like, he did a really great job at showing us how to make money in this
Hmm.
business, right? In this
Hmm.
industry. And it was awesome. But at the same time, we were so burnt out. I was like so tired. I was on calls at 9 p.m. With potential clients. I mean, it was just wild, and it was just way too much. Especially for me. Like, I would look around in the program that I was in, and I'm like, I'm almost 40 years old. The person to my left to me, person to my right are 27. I've got four
Hmm.
kids. They, just got graduated from college. I'm like, we're not the same,
Hmm.
I'm like, so this program is a great program, but it's not for me in my life at this time. And so that's when I realized I had to do something different. So I needed to, I thought, if I could save this Fortune 500 company that I worked at for 16 years, I was able to save them millions through process improvement and, really creating more lean processes and doing project management, then I could do the same for Keto Mommy Makeover, which was what my company was called.
That's right.
So
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I had to lean into that and look at how I could cut my day in half, how I could, create more with less time, how I could take the time that I wanted to dedicate to my business, not the time that I had to dedicate, time that I wanted to dedicate, and how I could use that to still continue and sustain the revenue that this man taught me how to make without burning out, without being burnt out. And
Wow.
so that was one of the things that I really, really leaned into, and it began to work out. And then shortly thereafter, other coaches that were in that same program as me started coming to me asking how I was doing it, how I was getting my time back, because they knew how to make the money now. They just didn't know how to get their time back. And so I began coaching other coaches on, how to sustain revenue, how to streamline their processes, really, so that they're able to, work less, make more, and live more and feel
Hmm.
better. So it was like,
Hmm.
how do you create all of this together? And so that's what I began leaning into, and it really, really helped and worked out. So
That
that's
is
where that
so
came
amazing.
from. Mhm.
So say if let me ask this question on the back end. So let me kind of so I was going to have you speak directly to a person who wants to kind of get on this journey of trying to get their wellness and health right. But let me ask you this now. You've gone from having this experience of being an athlete, but yet always being plus size, larger, and then you get to a point where you gain a lot of weight, morbid obesity, your life is at the line. Then you look at your children and say, I want to live for them. I don't want them down this path. You go on this health journey, all these tosses and turns. You're now wellness coaching, but now you are, and this was the part that fascinated me, you are a business strategist for wellness professionals. How did that shift and pivot come? And what caused you to say, now I want to take this to even the next level in helping other wellness professionals with their businesses?
You know, it happened through leaning into what my mission was and what my purpose was around this
Mm,
business. And I realized that I wanted to make an impact. Um, and I wanted people to feel good. So what I realized is that I was leaning into my ego a bit much by being a wellness coach, because now I get to help you, lose weight or shift your mindset and all these different things. And I was real proud of it, right?
hmm.
Uh, what was ego was the endorphins and the joy I got in that piece of it, right? And I
Oh.
got to look at the fact that me, I'm helping people on their journey. Let's say I could help 200 women a year lose weight, feel better, have more energy, start leaning into their life goals and stuff in that way, right? That would be awesome. If I did this for 10 years, that's 2,000 women helped, right?
Hmm.
2,000 women changed and shifted. But if I were able to help 200 wellness professionals a year, and each of those wellness professionals were able to help 2,000 women over the next 10 years,
Hmm.
then I mean, I can't even do those numbers right now, and I'm a whole engineer. But it's like literally I'm leaning into 4 million people.
Hmm.
4
Hmm.
million people impacted versus the 2,000 over 10 years. And that's where I realized the shift needed to happen. Yes, it feels good to help someone achieve their goals, their wellness goals, and to start seeing themselves differently and have more confidence. But when I looked at my zone of genius and my gift is process improvement, productivity improvement, and business strategy. So I get to work in my zone of genius and have an even greater impact. And yes, it's still a little bit of ego, right? But
Hmm.
it also leans into a much larger impact when I'm working with wellness professionals, because when they get seen, when more of their ideal clients see them, that means they have a bigger impact, which means that it's exponential for me. And
Wow.
that's what I love. Mhm.
How has your journey affected the people closest to you? Those who knew you as one way those years ago and now see you now. How has your lifestyle and your transformation affected others?
It's so funny, in two ways. One, most of my friends, they love me so much that I'll show them a picture of me from,
Mhm.
say, 2015 or something. And I had one friend, it was so funny. We were at my son's karate class and we were just talking. And I was like, I showed, and we saw each other the entire time I was losing weight. So, so I pulled up a picture for whatever reason of me from like 2015. And
Mhm.
she's like, oh, I didn't know you back then. And I was like, we've known each other since 2012,
Oh
right?
my
Like,
goodness. Are you
and it's because,
serious?
yes, she just assumed that you don't even when you care about someone, many times you have gotten so you're used to them. It's like you see them and sometimes you don't see the size. You don't see those
Wow.
unhealthy pieces. You just see love, And so there's that piece of it. And then there's folks who, like in my family, who would see me maybe a month or 2 months apart and see a huge difference in my size. And they would say things like, they basically would try and shift, you know,
Okay.
like see what they could do to, improve their health. They would even ask for tips or ask questions. And I would always, willingly help, of course. After a while, what I realized is that, as much as I love my family and stuff, they don't listen to me.
That's right.
So what I
Yeah.
began doing is, yes, so I began connecting them with others.
That's
So if
why I
they,
started
Mhm.
laughing is because yeah, I already knew.
Yep.
and and too, as much as we love our kinfolk,
Hmm.
uh part of the goal of this is to have consistently paying clients as well. So
Hmm. Right, exactly. But that's because if folks don't pay, they don't pay attention, right?
Mhm.
So it's like you're sitting there chasing them down the way you do because it starts to feel like you care more than they do. And
Yeah.
you don't want that. You want people should be caring about their health. That's when you know that they're ready to actually make a transition when they care about the thing that they say they're going to do.
Wow.
Hmm.
What would you say to a person who is a wellness professional and they might be stuck or they may be in a rut and they might even be a bit discouraged and wanting to even get off of this entrepreneurial path? What would you say to them?
Um, I would say look at why you started and why it's important to you. Because what happens is we get into this space where we've been doing this a long time. And
Mhm.
it sometimes it can feel like, oh my goodness, I don't want to do it anymore. Clients may not be coming in the way you thought, or maybe you're working with people and they aren't getting the transformation because they aren't doing the thing. They aren't being consistent or being disciplined or
Mhm.
sticking to it. They aren't showing up for calls. And it starts to feel like you're spending more time marketing and selling than you are delivering, which is the thing that you want it to be doing. You want to be coaching people, you want to be helping people, and yet all your time is spent on sales calls or marketing calls or doing webinars or whatever it is. And so in that moment, I often tell people, look at what you're doing and how you're doing it. Align with either a coach or some sort of program that's going to get you in front of the right audiences and show you how to continue to do it. That's going to allow you to reduce the time spent doing those things that you don't love as much. Because when we do a bunch of stuff that we don't enjoy or we don't love, what happens is we get burnt out because everything seems like it's taking forever.
Mhm.
Everything seems like it takes more of our time. It takes our energy. It takes more energy to do the thing that you don't enjoy than it does to do the thing that you do enjoy. So look at what that means for you and find a way to lean more into the things that you enjoy. And it may mean outsourcing the things that you don't love in order to be successful in your business.
That's very valuable advice. And going back to the root and the heart of why you got started and the people that you helped initially, what would you say to a person who's probably struggling with their weight or they've been yo-yo dieting for years and they just don't know what to do, or that they may think they are too old or they can change it on their own, but need extra help and are getting a bit discouraged? How would you uplift them?
I would say, especially when it comes to your health, get an idea of why you want to do it.
Mhm.
And also decide to enjoy the journey versus just the outcome. Many times we're so focused on that outcome that it feels like a chore, right? Oh, I got to get up and work out again because I got to lose this weight by this date. And it's like, don't allow it to be a chore. You know who it's not a chore to? My mom and her friends walking in the mall.
Mm,
My dad getting on the bike and riding his bike through the neighborhoods or around the lake in the park, right?
mhm.
It doesn't feel like a chore because they're doing something they enjoy. So, and they're enjoying the journey. And when we get to enjoy the journey, then now the outcomes just become like a bonus. Like,
That's
oh,
right.
I've got more energy. Oh, I've lost some weight. I'm enjoying my 10-mile bike ride every morning,
That's
you
right.
know? So enjoy that journey.
You spoke
Mhm.
earlier about your husband, and we're coming to some closing questions. Um, we spoke earlier about your husband. How has your husband been a key part of your journey, of your inspiration, and keeping you moving forward on this?
He's just been a really great supporter.
Mhm.
Um, he believes in me, he trusts me, and he knows what we need and he does it. You know, he just has my back 100%. Um, Especially in business. You
Mhm.
know, it's a difference when someone really believes in you. So we are a partnership. We're together on this journey.
That's right. And I think, and the reason I ask that is because for anything you're going to do well, it takes a good support system and everything of that nature. So this is what I like to do is I truly appreciate your time today and all of the wisdom nuggets you have dropped. And what I'd like you to do as we close out, please let people know how they can connect with you.
Okay, great. Yes, definitely reach out to me. You can either go to ilekafalette.com or you can find me on Instagram or Facebook at Ileka Falette. And yeah, let's connect. You can always DM me, ask any questions, and I'm always here.
Thank you so much, Alika. This has been very encouraging, and I hope and pray the best for you. I'm so glad you are in my life, and we are definitely going to keep in touch for some future collaborations as well. Thank you so much. It was such a joy having Alika here today with me on this episode. There's so much you can learn from her. And please follow her journey. She is so insightful, a wealth of knowledge, and just overall good people, as we say in the South. Again, I invite you to join me for yet another episode of the Power Transformation Podcast. Episodes are released every Wednesday, and I value you. And what we're going to do to close this out, we're going to say the affirmation again. I'll say it once and you repeat it, and let this resonate with you throughout the week and every day of your life. I avoid comparing myself to others because I value who I am. If you enjoyed today's show, then you don't want to miss an episode. So follow the Power Transformation Podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you usually listen, and remember to rate and review. I also invite you to connect with me on social media at Alethea Felton. That's at ALETHEAFELTON. Until next time, remember to be good to yourself and to others.